Hey everyone, I'm Curtin Davina, and I am joined here by two people who are involved in a game that we got to see at today's Xbox showcase, Doom: The Dark Ages. Marty, Hugo, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you feeling?
Pretty good.
Great.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
How do you feel that everyone already knows the name of the Skullcrusher?
Well, it's because, that's what it's called. It's funny, like, I read that on Twitter a lot. They're like, they should call it the Skullcrusher. I'm like, that's exactly what it's called. And then the Shield Saw, I'm like, you don't know this, but you actually just said what the name of that is.
The game's coming out in 2025. And now we've seen like this new moment of Doom. Doom 2016 was like this reestablishment of like what Doom is and the identity of Doom.
Right.
And then with Doom Eternal, I don't know if this is probably the appropriate way you would want to hear it, but I always like saw it as like the popcorn Doom. It was like like it was this escalated version. It took everything Doom 2016.
A celebration of video games.
Yes. Now we're in the Dark Ages.
Right.
And the tone of the game has like come a bit back from Eternal.
Yes.
Everything's a bit darker given the name. But what is it like having to like take something like Doom and see it like kind of like watch it go through these sort of different eras, and now we're in this like fantasy, like medieval style Doom?
You know, a lot of those franchises that stand the test of time, like Zelda or Assassin's Creed, it's expected that they're going to reinvent things, every couple of years to keep it fresh. And we sort of feel the same way about Doom. I feel like there should always be a Doom game out there, but you can't just make the same kind of game every time. So it is darker, grittier, more cinematic. Sort of comes with the genre, of the Dark Ages. So yeah, we're excited. We think we're really going to give fans a very fresh new experience.
And it's not just the visuals; it's the gameplay. I think that's one of the cool things. Is it's the marrying of those things. It's each of the things, feeding off of each other. You say, like to watch the franchise, but really we kind of just guide it through that, and so much of those two things play off of each other. It works great.
Was there anything like specific that you were pulling from as id, whether it's like Quake or Hexen? Like, was there consideration looking at those things to try and like inform that, or were you really like going in to just be like, what would Doom be?
The original Doom?
Yeah.
Yeah. For people who got on board in 2016 and that was their first Doom, was Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal, what they play in Dark Ages will feel like a completely reimagined combat loop. We started from scratch. It is very much like rebuilt it from the ground up. But for fans of the original Doom, it's going to feel like a little bit of a return to form, to be honest, because a lot of the gameplay is back down on the ground like it was in the original Doom.
I noticed that. I was going to say that like the arenas that you were fighting, that they were shown, it was like they were much more grounded. They weren't as like vertical in the way that like Eternal was, or even like platforming like 2016.
Yeah, Doom Eternal went up in the air. You were like an F-22 fighter jet. And in Doom: The Dark Ages, you're going to feel like an Abrams tank, you know? And the original Doom was like that.
Yeah. I think too just the lore that has been built up in the universe that we've built with Doom over the last couple games. Hugo has done a lot of just amazing writing of Slayer testaments in 2016 and some of the flashbacks that happened in Eternal.
And then Ancient Gods.
They all and then Ancient Gods. They all call back to this time period that
the Slayer's crusade.
That has a medieval feel. So it fits really, really well, and it's kind of been something that's been building even as we build those other games.
Yeah, we were planning on making this game for a long time.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. No, the arc. We always thought of it that way. So the Slayer's testaments, in the first stage, in the first battle, in the Shadows first lengthened. Well, this is a game about that period. The peak Slayer, when he was seen, as we said in the trailer, as a super weapon of gods and kings. You are like the nuclear option in this war against hell. And everything we're doing is to just really live up to that power fantasy. And the tech, the engine, the team, levels, combat, everything is just going to make you feel like that super weapon, which should be really fun.
I mean, how do you even approach upping the ante?
You don't try to redo it. Like you don't want to be a fighter jet. Like Doom Eternal.
Was that the philosophy? Like Doom Eternal, you're a fighter jet.
Well, because and you're just up in the air. We have a saying. It's like in Doom Eternal, it was jump and shoot. Doom 2016, it was run and shoot. In Doom: The Dark Ages, it's stand and fight. Like you're going to be able to walk down a Hell Knight and go toe to toe using that shield. In your
I was about to say the combination of the mace and the shield, like,
There's a synergy there. You combine those tools together to kind of wreak
and then you
havoc.
get to
on
throw the
demons.
shield out.
Yeah,
Like, oh
it's
my-
and you cut everybody in half.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
The unifying thing always though is aggression, solving the problems with as Hugo says in one of our pitches, cartoonish amounts of violence. So like that's just a unifying element of Doom, whether you're going all the way back to the originals or what you're seeing in the Dark Ages. You can incorporate things like shields and flails and you always have your guns, and as long as you're doing things just really violently and just upping the ante on the power fantasy.
And at what point were you like, okay, the Slayer's like on the ground, he's got a shield and a mace, but we have to put him on a winged beast and also get him to do. I mean, you say he's not a jet fighter in this one, but
Well, you ride a dragon, you pilot a mech. Again, things we've been planning on for a couple games now. So we've been hinting at this for like a long time, and everybody knows I'm crazy about mechs. So like being able to do that. What I love about it is our mechs are huge. Like obviously they are Jaeger Pacific Rim sized mechs, and there's a sense of weight and scale to everything you do that I think feels really fresh, And then you get to ride your own like Gatling gun toting, fire breathing mecha dragon, because it's Doom and it's awesome.
I always used to say that like Doom Eternal was like had this Tetris-like sort of thing that would happen to me. Like, I mean, I know you folks have talked about the flow state, and like
Right.
like this sort of thing that's like every single choice you make, the way the UI is to make sure that players are always just aware of what they're doing, what they can do, and how they're doing it. Was there any particular lessons maybe you took from Doom Eternal, which kind of like took the UI a step further, that gave the player a lot more options, like with every weapons they had on their shoulders? Is there a balance, or are you continuing that with the Dark Ages?
No, it's streamlining everything.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think like anybody, right? They want to make things as simple as possible. And so one of our sayings is like an ergonomic control scheme, where the inputs and every action you take feels intuitive. So I think, and I love all that stuff with Eternal, but after every game, we look at what we did and we think about ways to, make it better. So streamlining the control scheme was a big focus, and I overdo it with the analogies, but fewer strings on the guitar. That was like something we said a lot. But then, adding more depth to the inputs that you have. So master the inputs, and then each hour there's more and more things you could do with that input that you learn, that button that you've gotten used to clicking.
Marty, you've been at id for a while.
Long time.
What is we've already talked about like the evolution of Doom, and like you mentioned earlier how you were like looking at the first Doom with kind of looking at this. Like you've been involved in a lot of other things, and I'm kind of curious, like what is it like I think you even mentioned like your fingerprints, like we were talking off camera, like what are the fingerprints you feel like are being left, like the id legacy that's happening, like?
Yeah, boy, I think the approach that we've taken to the franchise, and it's still got so much of that. I mean, I tend to call it the id DNA in it. Whether that's Hugo talks about it all the time. Like at the beginning of the project, everybody kind of goes back and plays the original Doom. There were so many things in that original game that just have fueled us. Whether we were working on Doom 2016, and back then it was like no reload, like and that was like a big thing at the time. Like you're not going to reload your guns because everybody was doing reloads. So, and just the humor and the brand. Doom Eternal, it was the celebration of video games, and with this, it's just it's always that evolution, but there's just so much of the DNA, even the way that we develop in our team size, and that's kind of what we were talking about is like we're not a very large team in the grand scheme of making AAA first-person shooters. We're actually pretty small, and when we bring people in, they're like really, really talented. We're surrounded by an amazingly talented team that all just have this amazing creative direction, and everybody just kind of starts rowing in the same direction. It's amazing what they accomplish, and it's all just with that kind of like common DNA, that common vibe, the culture of development that we've made. And I just think our products feel like id products, and they always have. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things you can't really like quantify, but because you've got people that have been doing it, and we have a lot of people who've been working together a long time together, last 10, 15 years, you just kind of you keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, I like what the thing that's always fascinating or always like so cool to see is you see how obviously Doom revolutionized so many things. You see how like other games like come and influence other games after it, and then game like the Doom 2016, there was like a new appreciation for like the boomer style shooter.
Yeah.
But then you didn't repeat yourself with Doom Eternal. Like you took it into this other direction.
Right.
But then you get this. I still get to see like how these games still continue to like set a bar and inspire and influence other people, and then yet you still stay kind of limber. And
I feel like we have to innovate.
Yeah.
That's the expectation, you know? So yeah, every game, especially this game, we really did start from scratch. Eternal kind of started with the tool set from 2016. You know, micro missiles is in the game. The ballista and the arbalist, the Gauss cannon and the ballista are pretty much the same, you know, like a Gauss rifle. The heavy cannon is basically a heavy assault rifle. So there's a lot of similarities in the tool sets between Eternal and 2016, which then immediately there's a familiarity, which is good. Innovation, you know, can be sometimes a challenge. And then with this game, it was like, well, let's just start with scratch because you've never fired a Skullcrusher before. Mm-hmm. So your opening hours of using the Skullcrusher is just going to be how much fun it is to use the Skullcrusher because you've never shot it before. With like the micro missiles in Doom Eternal, you'd already shot those a bunch of times. You know, well, here's what else we could do. We could, you know, do all these different combos and stuff. So I think in this game, it's about giving you something you've never shot before. You know, there's almost like a novelty to like a new weapon that I think is half the fun.
I mean, I think even like the idea of giving the Slayer, who has an entire arsenal, like every possible gun, every possible thing that can do something, but still give him a shield. And like the idea of like a shield and a gun, like it's like an oxymoron in the coolest possible way.
We made a meme. One of the touchstones was like in 300 when Leonidas in that great scene in the hot gates when he break the phalanx and he like charges through and in slow-mo he's just taking out a bunch of guys. We watched that at the very beginning. It was like, we need to make people feel like this, you know?
So 300 was like...
And swapping out his Spartan sword for the super shotgun. So we made a meme where like it was like Leonidas like this in that scene, and we just photoshopped out his sword and put his shotgun in it, and it was like that. Or like Aragorn in you know the Minas Tirith battle, like just a sense of scale. What can we do that feels unique to our game in our studio? Well, we can make you feel like that guy.
So you watched a bunch of fantasy movies, and you're like, what if they had a gun?
Yes,
like on top
but
of
just
that.
the sense of scale and power, you know. And you write the line like a super weapon. People think of you like that, like you're the nuclear option. It's like, okay, well, you got to make me feel that way, you know. So that's the other thing. Like the scale of everything has gone up. So in that piece of footage, the Skullcrusher, you're killing like dozens of dudes. That's what it's like in the game. I mean, it's not double the AI. It's like, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. We put a lot on the screen. Our tech team has done an amazing job getting us to that point. I think it's also interesting that like it's fun to work on a brand like Doom because that universe can have so many things. But like if you go back to 2016, I don't think we could have made Doom 2016 and the Slayer have a shield. You wouldn't have wanted to. And like when we were talking about like what is Doom at that point, it was very much like, you know, borrowing from those ideas of the original Doom and Doom 2. As the kind of brand has evolved and you know the ideas through the lore and all the different gameplay mechanics have evolved, it totally feels right now. Actually, it's amazing when you play the game. You're just like, this is unbelievable. And of course, making it a chainsaw, you know, a shield saw is even more on.
But that was about the depth thing. Like, okay, you could have a chainsaw and a shield, but that's two inputs now. Or you could go like this, and then it's like, and it's a shield saw. Everything just has this like, you know, metalhead kid in the back of the class when who
is etching in the table. Like,
it's almost like that's our creative director, and you know when it's right, it's like, oh yeah, Skullcrusher. That's awesome. You know,
is there anything really specific about Doom 1 and 2? Like anything that like when you
projectile speed.
Really?
Immediately, yeah. It was like we've never even quite got this right. You know, like you strafe to aim in 2016 in Eternal for sure, but it's mostly just keep moving. You know, I think in the original Doom in the opening hours, we all remember it. It's like, you know, imps or soldiers firing slow moving especially the imps, And they hit
The
hard.
one on the first level that's like
Right.
the top clip.
They hit really hard, and if you get hit by one of those, you're in a lot of trouble. So,
And the trains, like, it's just a natural, you know.
well, yeah, you start to slalom between them, and then that's where the movement comes in. So instead of constructing a multi-tiered arena, which is badass, to keep you moving, right? And that's what movement means in the modern Doom games. It's like, well, if we ground it, slow down the projectiles, make them hit way harder, and create patterns in the space, and then that's the jungle gym you're going to move through, is this maze of projectiles, very much like a three-dimensional shmup. And it was just like, oh yeah, you know, why didn't we should do this? You know, they did this 20, 30 years ago. Like, it really works. That combined with a ton of new innovations, you know, and again, like just the scale of the game. We didn't even talk about this, but exploration in our game is like,
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, man, it's like 3x. Huge emphasis on, you know, just big levels, tons of variety. You know, some of the more linear spaces that you're used to seeing in a Doom game, but then like, you know, you unlock the space, return to the same location, and it expands, you know, in interesting and surprising ways. We have sandboxes, you know, it's just like some really interesting stuff to really break up the experience.
The pacing of the game is very different than 2016 and Eternal,
Yeah.
just because you have the exploration, you have these incredible experiences with the Atlan and the Dragon, and like those, we're not getting into the detail of those things yet.
Sure.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot to talk about there, but it's just the pacing is incredible. You're really going on a journey. It's, you know, you get into a flow state like we talked about with Eternal, and kind of each of these things has its own flow state, and they're all very different.
I mean, even consider, it's little things like that where I obviously there's so many gameplay mechanics that are very obvious when you watch a trailer for something like the Dark Ages, but I don't want to call it formula, but the idea of like levels is such a normal thing that I'm used to Doom that I didn't even like consider like the idea of like how you'd be branching out exploration and stuff like that. So that's amazing.
Plenty more to talk about there. I'm
Yeah.
excited to share with you guys, but it's very cool stuff. And like you said, we use the Dragon and the Atlan.
Is that a way you get to other areas, or too soon to say?
Probably better not talk
Okay,
about it too
okay,
much,
yeah.
I think. But the main thing you said was to break up the pace of the campaigns. They're kind of a good way to change it up for the player.
Sweet.
It's a big journey, you know. It's like the epic quality of it is unlike anything we've done before, and that's what we were trying to do with the trailer. Is just kind of give people the sense of like there's a lot here. It is an epic game, and there's lots to do. So
Amazing.
lots to talk about in the future.
I feel like Doom is not a game you can just show with a cutscene. It's not a game you can just show with like a CGI trailer. So it was like really awesome to see like the showcase open up with a full gameplay.
That was all
like,
from the game.
All from
Yeah,
the game,
yeah.
Everything, the
Straight
music,
out.
the guns, footage, everything.
Yeah, it looked awesome. I cannot wait. I like flipped out. It
Thanks.
was,
We're really excited.
It was.
I was like this when they showed it.
We were sitting next to each other. It was like I'm shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it means so much to me.
Thank
Hugo?
you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
Really
here.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
We'll find out more. 2025.
Cool.
Sweet. Metal.
Thanks.
Cool.